Hey, so I wanted to read the book and also share what ideas got me quite interested in what I'm reading. And today I chose Kokoro. And this word basically is translated usually as heart. It's a Japanese word, but sometimes it can be translated as your soul. And I read a tiny bit of the book already, and I like the idea that we are entangled with time because we always try to get more of it, and we always try to have systems and time management solutions. And at the same time, we feel like we do not have enough time, but who, it's giving off the feeling that we are controlled by time. And this is something very interesting because at some point the author said that she kept making to-do lists, and I think many people do that, and they try to do micromanagement on every single minute and second of the day. But the thing is, I agree that we should give up on it to some degree because this channel started to have a little bit more videos from me only when I learned to relax. And at the end of each chapter there is like this tiny box, and it's always something pretty insightful from what I have seen. This one is the first one, and it's talking on how we should reflect on our lives and ask ourselves if we are happy with what we have. It's like a tiny check-in with ourselves, and to investigate how we feel about that, because I think we are either very neutral about our lives and our choices, or we just try to stay like that, like many people don't want to admit that maybe they are not happy with where they are, but at the same time, change is very frightening. But analyzing your life and analyzing your feelings and thinking what would make you proud of yourself at the end of this life, and for you to be content, with most of your decisions. I don't think you can be happy with all of your decisions, but I really like this idea that you should do a tiny check-in with yourself every once in a while. It's quite nice. So I made a little bit of more progress with the book, and it explained what Kokoro is and from where it started. It's a very old word, as expected, but I really liked how it got described and explained. Now, I'm not sure if I got the same definition as the author. Like, even if they explained something to me, I still feel like my own emotional and intelligence is going to maybe alter the meaning a little bit. From my understanding, Kokoro is basically being aware of your feelings while doing new and old stuff and just living, like being present in that sense. For example, if you are making yourself a cup of tea, you are going to pay attention to how warm it is and how the taste is and how it feels, and basically it just relaxes you, and you are tangling yourself with the mix of emotions and thoughts that you have in that exact moment. And this was an example, but I think it can also apply to experiences that are a little bit more complex. So let's say you are studying something and you are paying attention to how the pen feels in your hand and how you feel frustrated or relieved towards a particular piece of information. And it's like being aware of your own limitations and progress and everything in between. And there was a comparison that there are people who are wealthy rich, and there are people who are kokoro rich. So it's like people who have a lot of experience. And there is this one sentence in particular from the teacher of the author that I like a lot. I study as if I'm going to live to 120, and I live as if today is all I have. And they are completely extremes, if you ask me. But I think this is lovely because you are taking each moment as it is today, But at the same time, when it comes to studying, you are aware that you want to take it slowly. Because if you are thinking of it, at some point in our lives, each of us wanted to study something to perfection very fast, preferably, you know. I used to study languages, I still do. And I always had this fixation like, how can I make a better study plan? How can I study better and faster? And how can I learn a language faster? At some point, I had even these tiny plans of how to become advanced in 2 weeks. Now, even if it is possible, you don't give yourself enough time to enjoy the activity, you know. And recently I started learning French a little bit more seriously, and I take it slowly. I am not having a schedule, I'm not having a plan. I do know my limitations, and that's what I'm using, you know, when I'm studying. And I enjoy it quite a lot. I actually stopped using the Pomodoro method, and I just studied to my heart content in the end. So I really like this idea, you know, that you should live in the moment, but also be aware that you have all the time in the world. It's quite lovely. Okay, I made a little bit of progress with the book, like a couple of pages, but this idea is quite interesting. So she asked someone what they think about Kokoro, and the point is they do not go home unless they cleaned their inner turmoil. And I never thought of that, you know. Maybe at work I can have a difficult day, and when I come home I might still be a little bit frustrated or annoyed or even angry. But I never thought of not entering my house in that state of mind. But I should, you know. After all, our houses are like our safe space. So why should we taint it with dirty energy? I don't know if I should even call that like this, but it's a very good idea, you know, not to come home and to just go take a walk in nature, or go grab yourself a snack or maybe some fruits or whatever, or maybe just journal on your way home, you know, on a bench or something, and clarify what's going on with yourself, find a solution or accept the situation, and then enter your house, you know. So it's like the safest of the safest when it comes to, you know, places that you can go. And in the end, we spend quite a lot of time at home, I think. So it should be very proper just to have a good space, you know, that you cannot connect to any bad emotions. So I got to the end of this chapter, and I really like how now it makes a distinction. Like, when, let's take the example from before, you know, with the tea. If you are going to use your rational mind, you are just going to think of every single step of how your day has been and stuff like that. But this talks about enjoying the feeling that you have in that moment, you know, the warmth that you feel on your palm from the cup, or the sweetness of the tea if you are going to sweeten the tea. And it's basically feeling your emotions instead of analyzing. Like, you are not going to think, what am I thinking right now, you know. That's not very Kokoro like. It's more like you are just being, you are existing and enjoying what feelings go through you. So now the author talked about the importance of space in our lives and stillness, you know. But don't really think of something like sitting on a chair for like 10 minutes and not doing anything. It's a whole different sort of stillness. It's you with yourself. And it can also be done during an activity. Let's say you are coloring, like adult coloring books are quite popular nowadays. And that's an activity where you are still, you can feel your feelings, you can just be at peace, you know, because you are doing something that brings you joy if you are into that. If not, you can take another hobby. For example, she talked about writing books, so that's an option as well. And it's just about you spending time with yourself without being disturbed by your phone or by other people. Company is important, but at the same time, you need to take time to spend some of your time with yourself. I mentioned the word time quite a few times there, haven't I? So you should spend time with yourself, basically. That's stillness and that's peace. You with yourself. I got to the tiny box at the end of this chapter, and I don't know why it makes me think of what I said earlier, that stillness can be found only when you are with yourself. But now that I got to this tiny part, I think we can do that because we are getting, how should I say it, in equilibrium, in balance with ourselves. In the end, we are the medicine that we need. Because I will use an example here. Let's say you go to work and a coworker has a very strong opinion about someone or something. Now, you might try to be neutral and not have an opinion or a feeling about that, but let's say they keep going and going. And sooner or later, you maybe are not going to be influenced in that moment, but you are going to remember their reaction. And to some degree, they influence you. However, when the only person around you is yourself, in that moment, you are going to be in unison with your values and feelings. And I think a very good example for this is when, let's say, you have a free day after you worked for 5 days and you have a job in retail or minimum wage, or maybe you don't like your job or your coworkers. Now, at the end of the day, you are always very tired. And when it's your free day, you are going to stay with yourself. Let's use that example. And you're going to be quite at peace, You are not going to get angry with yourself. I hope at least you are not going to do that. But in this scenario, you are at peace with yourself, okay, guys? And I don't know, I think that's what stillness can do to you. If you are staying with yourself, you are the one calming yourself because you are not triggering yourself intentionally with anything. So that's like the baseline for your life, and you are returning to it whenever you are with yourself. Okay, so the author went to visit some monks, and she is telling us about an experience here. But this monk, apparently he is a superior, and she asked him, why did you not delegate the task of drying mushrooms? And he said, because the weather conditions are perfect today, and I wouldn't have the knowledge and the experience of doing it if I'm not doing it. And this is such a great way to look at your tasks, I have this very bad habit of saying, I will do it tomorrow. I will do it tomorrow. Like, I do know that tomorrow me is not going to do it. Like, I know I know me, even if it's tomorrow. But this logic that the conditions are perfect now, I can do it now. I never thought of it like this, like maybe tomorrow I will have less energy than today. We never think of that, So this change of perspective is something that I really wanted to share with you guys. So there is this half a sentence that I really like how it sounds. I have been lulled into dullness by the stuff of everyday life. And this is so true, And at the same time, I was reading something the other day and it said, oh no, I wasn't reading. It was actually from a show. Okay. And the character said something along the lines that life is stealing our future from us. And this one sounds a little bit similar with that line. But I think the future is found in the things we do right now, Because time is a little bit of an interesting topic in my eyes, at least, because the present is not really the present. The moment I say the present already becomes the past. And if I say the future, the future already became the present and the present became the past. So sometimes I think of this little thingy because I find it interesting. But at the same time, everyday tasks can be quite beautiful if you manage to find joy in them, you know? And yeah, but this idea of being lulled into dullness, it's because we are not really present in our mundane chores. We try to just be done with them, you know? So, this chapter is a really heavy one. It's talking about time, and there is this one paragraph that I like a lot. Wasting time becomes wasting our own existence. Making time becomes creating our own life out of what really matters. Killing time is unspeakable, and time is money laughable. And it's basically the idea that we are time. And I remember there was a law in physics that says time expands in, let's say, connection to our vision about it and about life. So if you are going to make time for something, then you are going to have time for it. It's quite interesting. I have a personal example for this. I used to think that I cannot go and play badminton before work, only after work. And I had this friend who asked me to play in the morning. I had work that day and I became very anxious. I was like, do I have enough time to prepare, to shower after the game? And I did. And I didn't even rush, which was the key factor in my experience. And I realized that indeed you are going to have time if you make something a priority. Now, this entire chapter is heavy because it talks about time and how we are time, but at the same time, there is no past and no future. There's only now. And if you want to enjoy every single moment, there is really no point in rummaging the past or worrying about the future because you are going to take each moment as it comes and try to live it in such a way that you are not going to have regrets and you are going to enjoy whatever you experience in that moment. And I personally don't know how to feel about this. Like, it sounds beautifully in theory, but at the same time, maybe I am a little bit afraid of the future and the past at the same time, you know, because we have seen in our lives how the past may affect your present and the future, you know, consequences exist. But at the same time, it's very relaxing thinking of stuff like I will take everything as it comes. So I will have to think about this. I do not have a clear opinion yet, but I definitely enjoyed the book. It's really giving me a lot of new ideas and stuff to think about. So I just started a new chapter, and there is this quote from her mother. You are so brave and adventurous. I don't know where you get it from. You are living a life I would never have dared to live, but would have loved to. And I don't know why it just hit me that we all have this person that we admire or we have seen the life of, and we might want to live like them, you know, having the opportunities that they have. But we are not taking into consideration the courage and the bravery that that person needed in the beginning, you know, to obtain all those opportunities. And let's say someone moved to Japan out of the blue and they just left everything behind. You know, it was a spontaneous decision. How many would actually take that opportunity, you know, without knowing anyone there, without knowing the language, but like figuring out as you go, you know? Fear is something that controls us, but really, that sentence from her mother made me think of what sort of things I want, but would I be willing to put in the effort for them, you know, and actually go blindly for them every once in a while? Because you cannot be aware of every single decision that you take. Every once in a while you have to turn a blind eye and just go ahead. So I just read another heavy chapter, and I will definitely need some time to process everything. But there is this one paragraph that I like a lot. We get stuck in these ideas about who we think we are and should be. We get shaped by the societies we live in and the opinions of others, and slowly, over time, and as we age, these forms become fixed in our minds. But that is simply a construct of the imagination. Nothing is fixed, everything is changing, all possibilities are waiting for us. And this is actually true. I mean, after I'm thinking about it, it is. But I don't think we notice unless someone points out that we are the result of our circumstances. And this includes habits, ways of thinking, ways of acting. But if we really go back when we didn't know anything, I think we have to really think of when we were kids. If you analyze a kid, they are curious about everything and everything. And at the same time, they stop when they need to stop. If a kid is like, I need a nap, they are just gonna take a nap in the middle of the floor or something. And it's not that we should go back and be as we were as kids necessarily. But it's that thing of not being limited by expectations or by standards. You just be at peace and take each moment as it goes and comes, because it comes and goes. So if we are thinking about that, we are basically limitless, and as the previous chapter said, we are basically time and existence itself. If you are not thinking of who you should be and what you should have or what you should have done. And I don't know, I find this to be pretty inspiring, because being everything and anything at the same time is really limitless. You can become an athlete right now if you want. Well, of course, you can go about it as, let's say, discovering a new side of you, because you cannot really get attached to an idea or a plan. And this is something in this chapter that really, I had to stop for 5 minutes. I just stayed right here and pondered everything, because I used to tell myself, I'm letting go, I'm not having any expectations anymore. But the thing is, that in itself to some degree is an expectation. You shouldn't think about it like at all. And I really like this book, but the thing is, when I looked through it at the bookstore, it gave me the feeling that it's a pretty light read. I didn't expect it to give me an existential crisis after an existential crisis. Existential crisis is constantly in this book. Okay, so there's finally not an existential crisis, but here is a pretty fun fact. So the sixth taste basically is called tanmi in Japanese, and it's in comparison with umami in this book. As you know, umami basically means delicious taste, and it's that meaty, savory sort of feeling that you can find in, meat, tomatoes, mushrooms. But tanmi got my attention because it refers to the lightness and the freshness of the food. If you order yourself pizza from a place that uses canned mushrooms, for example, you're going to notice the difference in comparison to a pizza that has fresh mushrooms. I do like that taste, the tanmi one. You can always feel a little bit more attached to the person or the place that cooks with fresh ingredients in the end. So this was a very nice fun fact. So in this chapter, the author talked with the CEO of a company, a building company. And what's interesting is that he doesn't plan to make a chain out of his very successful hotel, which is an interesting thing, because nowadays we hear the advice that if you are good at something, keep doing that and get paid. But what's more fascinating about this man is that he got asked how he decides which projects to do next, and he said that he is following his feeling, like if he likes it, if he dislikes it, if it's whatever, or if it stinks of effort. And that's an interesting way of going about it, because me as well as my friends have noticed that we avoid particular tasks if we don't feel like them. And we say, I don't feel like it. But in reality, I think the feelings are a little bit more complex. Maybe they are not to our liking to the point of us hating the tasks, or maybe there is way too much effort and that brings us to feel uncomfortable and anxious. And I think that's the thing for this CEO. He's doing whatever brings him a good feeling in that moment, and if he makes a mistake, there is the whatever version where he is like, you know what, I thought a lot about it, what's gonna happen is gonna happen. So he's going with the flow. And I really like this strategy. It's what I am speechless. This is a good strategy. Okay, so this is all from this book. These are the ideas that I liked, and I'm going to think a lot about them, especially the time one. I feel like there is still something to figure out about that. But what did you think about the book? I thought it was very lovely, and I really recommend it. It's really eye-opening to some degree, even if you have read about different Japanese life philosophies like wabi-sabi or kanken or ikigai, gambate. Oh, and there was also ichigo ichie. This one is something else. So until next time, bye bye.